Giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Friday. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube, and of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! Ooh, it's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. We have preseason football tomorrow. Cowboys, Raiders, 9 p.m. Central. I got my guy Patrik Walker coming through. About 10 minutes or so. We're going to talk about what to watch for in tomorrow's game, and as well as give you the latest out there in Oxnard. What's happening this week? A lot has happened this week. A lot of injuries, a lot of player movement, plus just some updates on the field. Also, it's Friday. Open up the mailbag. Had a lot of questions. We narrowed them down to about 4 or so. Might add a few bonus ones in there. Depends on how long we go with Patrik Walker of DallasCowboys.com. So yeah, it's a chill Friday. It's not quite. It's not quite roll out the TV yet. You know, we're kind of past that. But what would you equate it to? Yeah, it's not roll out the TV today. But look, it's one of those situations where you ain't got no homework. You know, you just got back to school, and it's orientation type day. You know, I guess they do orientations. My son has school today for the first day of school, but it's not real school. It's just like, hey, this is where your class is at. This is where lunch is going to be. This is your teacher. See you on Monday. I think that's just goofy, but that's how we'll approach it today, Cowboys Nation. Good morning, Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad!
I just did the arrow. We got a little news on our own Archer here in regards to Brandon Cooks. Let's get into that right now, actually, Cowboys Nation.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Time.
It's time!
Time?
It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you. Yeah!
Love LA Knight. That's a good way to put it. It's like a substitute teacher day, yeah. Depending on the sub. But the subs usually just roll out the TV. So, you know, I do my Archer every morning. And honestly, I was doing it before Brandon Cooks, but now that he's on this team, it just makes so much more sense. However, yesterday, Brandon Cooks, who's been having a really good camp, developing that chemistry or adding to it with Dak Prescott in this offense in year 2. I don't want to say he went down. I don't want to call it that, but he exited practice with some what's being described as knee soreness. Now, they say it's nothing serious. They also say, though, it's something that they will monitor. I definitely want to talk to Patrik about that. I want to know what he's hearing down there. Are they posturing? Is Cooks a little bit more hurt, or is this just normal? I'm getting a little older. My neck and my back ain't the same type situation. Either way, at some point, you figure there's going to be some soreness in camp, though, right? Like that's why I'm not trying to look into it too deeply. But when it's a guy like Brandon Cooks, it makes my antennas raise up a little bit, because I think he's going to be a big part of this offense in 2024. So when I see him exit practice, I'm like, we good here? We all right? And according to those down there, we are. We'll talk to Pat. Excuse me. We'll talk to Pat. He'll give us the up-to-the-minute update on Brandon Cooks. Also, Donovan Wilson went out. And this is what's interesting about, camp updates via Twitter. If you're following it via Twitter, and, shouts out to everybody down there, they'll do this. This is what they'll do. Brandon Cooks headed to the tent. End tweet. Donovan Wilson down, headed to the blue tent. End tweet. So now you're like, all right, though. Refresh. What's going on? And then you'll get something 10 minutes later. Oh, he just banged his knee against Deron Bland. We all good. Y'all can't be doing that, man. Can't be doing that. You know? But I get it, you know, and I appreciate those down there updating us every single last thing that's happening. But maybe put that in the drafts. Maybe put Donovan Wilson down, ... headed to the tent, ... but he returns to practice after you realize he returns or you know what's happening. Because y'all be giving me some scares down there, man. I'm gonna have to talk to some of these beat reporters. Dak Prescott on his knee. End tweet. Whoa, what's going on? He's just tying his shoe. Come on, dog. That's how they get us. That's how they get us, Cowboys Nation. But we will, like I said, we'll talk to Pat. He'll have some more injury updates for us. A lot of guys returned. I should say some guys returned. Some guys were not at practice a couple days ago or exited practice. I do want to know what's the skinny on those dudes. And does that impact tomorrow? No, some of these young bucks have to go out there and play. And they're dealing with something. So once we get Pat up in here in a few minutes, he'll brief us on what's going on down there. Y'all know I ain't lying. I'll go to Twitter right now and find one of those tweets. And then they'll post a picture with it. You know, Donovan Wilson kind of like huffing and puffing or something. Hey, stop it, man. They killed, what's his name? John Machota. Oh, they killed John. And John Machota, he cool. John ain't clickbaiting. But John, you know, when he posted about the CD Lamb thing, all he posted was what Jerry Jones said, and Twitter went off on him. You ain't post context, John. You can't just say we're not pressured or whatever it was that Jerry Jones said. I be careful now, man. I be chilling on Twitter nowadays. Hey, we got a super chat earlier already. Shouts out to our guy, Matt Lennox. He dropped 10 and said, loving the Jordan Phillips and Carl Lawson additions. Let's get Linval Joseph in here too. Yeah, we'll definitely carry over that conversation from yesterday. The Cowboys signed both, I almost said Linval Joseph, signed both Carl Lawson, edge, defensive tackle, Jordan Phillips, a guy who I've been clamoring for the last few years to get on this roster. A little late here. He's 10 years in, but I still think he can do something. I love listening to a couple different analysts on what he can bring. You know, some believe he won't be able to bring much into the run game. Some believe he's purely pass guy. And again, we talked about this yesterday. You might look at his size and you think, oh, this is just a run guy because he's 6'6", 340. Nah, he probably is a better pass rusher, which is wild to think about. But he's talented in that right. I just think he's been put in schemes, especially in Buffalo. He's played, 4 total seasons in Buffalo. His last, 2 stints in Buffalo and then Arizona stint before that. That scheme requires their defensive line to be an attacking scheme. I think he can actually play a run-stoppy guy because he's big, he's strong, he has the size, and he's hard to move. I think he can play what he's going to be asked to do in this Zimmer scheme very well. It's just about buying in. You know, after being an attacking scheme for so many years, trying to get after the Q for so many years, he's, I don't want to use the word head case, but prideful guy, intense guy, right? He's going to have to buy in late. We're 2 or 20 days out from the opening kickoff. So he's going to have to buy in late. If he buys in, it's good to go. He's good to go. Big Dial said, man, I don't care, just getting away. He's a big guy. Yeah, I mean, and there's a question. Was it? I think, I don't know if I actually got the question on today's. My bad if I didn't. There were some good questions. Oh, you know what? It's a bonus question. I'm gonna save it for later. Shouts out to my guy on Twitter who dropped the question. I have a thought process on this thinking of our defensive tackles just having to be okay. And I'll leave it at that. Nelson wants to know if No-C has an update on contract situation. So, I mean, I'll ask him if we have time. I know he's up against it today. But I told myself a few weeks ago I wouldn't really talk too much about contracts because unless there was real news to be had, and honestly, the real news is it's done or it's imminent, something like that. Other than that, Nelson, it's just the same old talking points. And I get that beat reporters have to do their job. So if Dak Prescott says something, they have to write an article so they can get the clicks and the reads, and that's how they make their money. I'm not knocking them, but I don't have to do that here because to me, there's nothing to talk about. Whether it's Dak or CeeDee Lamb, when those contracts happen, they'll happen, Other than that, it's just regurgitating the same damn thing over and over and over about these contracts. And I'm just over it. We got real football, and that's where I'm focusing on, Nelson. And once it happens, we'll be on it, man. Speaking on it, let's get to the scientific method. That's the scientific method today, and it's only right, man. Because we gotta get I gotta bring some energy in here. Yo, what's good, Pat?
Hey, yo.
I had to hit you with the Euro. I had to wake you up because I know you over in the West Coast. Man, it's rough getting up this damn early to talk, but it's football though, and it's Cowboys football. So
Yeah, we up. We in here. We live. We active. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
What do you want to talk about? Yeah. It's been a busy week, bro. A very, very busy week for the Cowboys in regards to injuries, guys, coming back, guys getting hurt, in regards to players being added and released. Kind of want to get a little bit of a rundown, a little bit of update on what's happening out there from an injury standpoint, as well as I'm going to talk to you about a specific player that got released. It kind of surprised me, but can you give us a skinny on the injury situations?
Yeah, most recently, biggest news obviously is Chuma Edoga. He's going to be out for upwards of 10 weeks with a big toe injury suffered against the Rams in the preseason opener. So your backup tackle, he's down for the count. We'll see exactly when he can come back. That 10 weeks is an approximation. Could be shorter, could be longer, but the fact of the matter is he's not going to be available anytime soon, likely not until mid-October. Not long after, you lose Chuma Edoga, you lose Earl Bostic, another backup tackle. He was carted out of practice, a scrimmage, I should say, against the Rams, and he's on his way back to Dallas effective yesterday. He's set to undergo surgery on a leg injury, and we don't have a timeline on him quite yet. So he could be several weeks, or he could be season ending. I'm still doing some digging to figure out what Earl Bostic's situation is. So in the midst of losing Earl Bostic, they signed Cole Cabral, offensive lineman. He's done a lot of work at center and guard, but he's going to be looked upon to be flexible to possibly pop out to tackle as well. The immediate plan, though, is Awesome Richards gets the nod specifically at left tackle behind first-round pick Tyler Guyton, and they're going to keep Matt Waletzko, on the right side. So there's not going to be a lot of swing going on right now in the preseason between backup tackles. So you look at Matt Waletzko on the right side, they're going to kind of keep him relegated there. Mike McCarthy, they're going to keep former fifth-round pick Awesome Richards on the left side, and Cole Cabral is kind of like break glass in case of emergency type deal.
Yeah, so we got Deuce Vaughn, who returned yesterday, Israel Mukuamu. Those guys look like they'll be able to suit up tomorrow.
I think Israel Mukuamu is, I'm not going to say a long shot. Let's call him a medium shot because he's been out of practice for a couple weeks, if not more, with that groin injury. But there's a chance, absolutely. Deuce Vaughn, I think Deuce Vaughn is 100% go, as well as Royce Freeman. They just needed to, Royce Freeman and Deuce Vaughn, they just needed to get through yesterday's practice in order to be good to go. But prior to yesterday's practice, Mike McCarthy basically told us that they're going to play as long as they don't suffer a setback. And they did not. They still looked good. Deuce Vaughn, I would argue to say that he, between last yesterday's practice and the practice prior, which is when he returned to in the scrimmage against the Rams. That was his best practice I've seen all camp. So I'm interested to see him now and Royce Freeman as well in this preseason game against the Raiders, because this is a big game for both of them. Not simply Royce because, he was signed this offseason and it's a one-year deal and veteran minimum, ... versus Deuce Vaughn, who, came in as the rookie, and there's all this pomp and circumstance around him. That doesn't make Deuce Vaughn safe in this running backs room battle, because he's missed a lot of time with that hamstring injury over the past couple of weeks. And as it stands, clearly they're bubble wrapping Ezekiel Elliott. They're mostly bubble wrapping Rico Dowdle. He might get a handful of snaps like he did against the Rams, but for the most part, he's good to go. But then when you talk about Hunter Lipke, if you treat him as a running back, he's going to make the roster. Mike McCarthy was praising Malik Davis yesterday. You got Snoop Conner in the mix, who's had an up and down camp. I'm still of the mindset, don't sleep on Nathaniel Pete. He could pop off at any moment, and if he does, makes things that much more tenuous for guys like Deuce Vaughn and Royce Freeman. So they got to get out there in Las Vegas, and they got to show something.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, Damone Clark and DeMarvion Overshown left practice, the Rams scrimmage, but I haven't heard anything since. What's going on with those guys? And is DeMarvion Overshown basically ruled out for tomorrow?
Yeah, I would pencil DeMarvion Overshown as out for tomorrow. First, let me preface by saying, first of all, biggest headline, and y'all got to work with me on this because, like Will told y'all, West Coast, he woke me up. So I'm right. Yeah. Let me get my brain right. Brandon Cooks. Okay, I know a lot of people were concerned about Brandon Cooks leaving practice yesterday. It was due to knee soreness, I'm told. He did not go down on a drill or on a rep or anything like that. He quite literally removed himself from practice. They took him over to the medical tent to kind of feel out some things, and they basically just shut him down basically due to knee soreness. So I'm told there's no major concern as we have this conversation. Hopefully that stays the case. But yesterday, everybody was copacetic about it. Like, no big deal. Okay, I'll take it as that until further notice. So that's the latest on Brandon Cook. Circling back to DeMarvion Overshown and Damone Clark, I'm also told nothing serious there. DeMarvion Overshown suffered what they're calling a hip pointer in that scrimmage against the Rams, and they're basically just being very precautious with him, right, for obvious reasons. So that being said, nothing major, but you may not see him on the field against the Raiders. You might. It's going to be a game-time decision, but it's 50-50. If I had to flip the coin right now, I'd say no, you sit him down, and then you get him his reps against the Chargers if that's how things go. But if not, I mean, as it stands, physically, he should be okay. Damone Clark, he's dealing with a little bit of a knee injury. He didn't practice yesterday. He was off to the side with Britt Brown doing rehab. I did see him walking off the field. Slight limp, but I talked to him. He said, he'll be fine for week one, and I'm going to hold him to that. So that's where we are on those two guys.
He just got a pimp limp. That's all. He good.
Yeah, that's all. It's nothing major. It's a little swagger in his gait. That's all.
Yeah. So the Cowboys traded for a behemoth of a defensive tackle in Jordan Phillips. They also signed Carl Lawson, one of the edge rushers. Cowboys fans been clamoring for a long time as well. But they had to make some roster moves. Shaka Toney was the big name that happened. Not the big name, but the injury name, I should say. But Carl Davis got released yesterday, and I thought that was interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, Pat, before I get on my Carl Davis rant here, there's also another move that needs to be made, correct, to fit these guys on the roster.
Yeah, there's another move coming, and it has to be made likely today. The reason it wasn't made on yesterday was because they had time to think about what that move's going to be, simply because the trade for Jordan Phillips didn't happen until late the previous evening, so it didn't get processed by the league office until yesterday. And Jordan Phillips had to catch the flight from Buffalo, and he arrived yesterday afternoon, late afternoon. I saw him when he came in. First of all, that is a unit.
I was about to
grief.
say.
Good grief, dude. Oh man, listen. Yeah, his shirt. I mean, you could take the tarp off a car and make it into a shirt for this dude. That is a building. So, needless to say, physically looks great. He looks like exactly what they need as far as just plopping this huge 6'6", 40, 45-pound guy right at one tech. So, yeah, he's in the building. What the move for Shaka Toney, that balances that. Waived injured for Shaka Toney, groin injury he suffered against the Rams. Unfortunately for him, the Penn Stater is out, and Jordan Phillips is into that slot. Now, Carl Lawson, he's expected to be signed and made official today. He was en route yesterday.
Okay.
But in order to do that, who do you move out of the way? And that's the question that the Cowboys have to answer. Now, Carl Davis, obviously he's going to be waived, but the reason that surprised me was for a couple of reasons. Carl Davis actually was not bad.
Right. That's why I was shocked.
Yeah, Carl Davis was having a really solid camp. I'm not going to say it was this great camp where he was a camp star like, some of the other names that we've thrown out there, like a Tyron Bailey Johnson or anything like that. But it was a very strong camp behind Mazi Smith. So that was a bit surprising, especially on the heels of what happened with Albert Huggins and the Rams intern, because I was standing right there when it happened. I mean, I was on that goal line when he did that. I was uploading another video for you guys because I love you guys so much. And by the time he finished shoving the guy, I couldn't get my camera up fast enough. So win some, lose some. But, when he did that, first thing popped in my head was like, dude, what are we doing? Like, what is this, right? Because that's not okay. I mean, you're 3 times the guy's size. You're in full pads. You're going full momentum. The guy launched back 7 yards.
Yeah.
He was probably 130 soaking wet. And then after that, if it wasn't intentional, just walk up to the guy and see if he's okay instead of going back to the huddle, putting the middle finger up like, badass Jones or whatever. But so I was surprised. I mean, you let go of Carl Davis, who was having a strong camp, for Albert Huggins, who almost got your scrimmage canceled, who also has just arrived. So I don't see how he had the cachet to be able to escape that. But he did, at least for now, because, again, there's still another transaction that needs to happen. But Mike McCarthy said Albert Huggins took accountability. He apologized, and the standard was reset with him. And we'll see how the rest of his camp goes. So
the Carl Davis release surprised me for the same reason you said in regards to camp, but also he put out decent film against the Rams. I thought he was way better than Albert Huggins. I thought he was one of your better defensive tackles in general in that game. Now, they all did some things in spurts, but I thought Davis's moment was brighter and longer than the rest of those guys. Also, just the room. You don't have a lot of defensive tackles, and you moved off of a healthy one, a veteran guy, to bring in another veteran, a better player. Don't get me wrong. And again, we're not sitting here trying to boast up Carl Davis. It's just when you have a guy like Huggins who did not play well at all, he was your worst player probably on defense, and then he did what he did, it just baffled me, and it made me think, is this a money type of situation? Because if I looked at Carl Davis's contract, it was like 1.3, almost 1.4 million. And the guarantees were extremely low. So he would cost a little bit more than Huggins would. And they did just sign 2 veteran guys like Carl Lawson and Phillips, who are going to be a little bit more than probably $1.2 million. So all I could think about is maybe they wanted to save a couple bucks, because it just makes no sense to keep Huggins and move on from Carl Davis.
And I don't think it's the financial component, because, like you said, it's just a couple bucks, and it's not going to make or break a deal with Carl Lawson or anyone else that they wanted to sign. And they added some other guys like Darius Harris, linebacker, Nick Vigil, the linebacker. But I think when you're talking about Albert Shovins, because he wasn't out there hugging anybody, so when you talk about Albert Shovins, I think it was just a situation where it might be one of or a couple of the defensive coaches. This is what popped up in my head yesterday. Pure speculation, but this is what we're doing right now. I think that 1 or 2 of the defensive coaches really want to see what Albert Huggins has, and they think that he has something that they can tap into versus what they had seen from Carl Davis, which was a solid camp, absolutely. And like you said, folks, we're not gassing Carl Davis. No. We're not saying that, he's peak Jonathan Hankins or he's Aaron Donald or anything like that. What we're simply saying is if you were going to swap out pieces to upgrade, then you probably would have considered swapping out Albert Huggins for Jordan Phillips and kept Carl Davis, and then that would have, as a collective, that would have made you stronger. Yeah. But instead, you went with Huggins, who had the weaker film than Carl Davis, and that's what's the head scratcher. So, but no, I don't think it was the financial component. I think just talking with a couple of the defensive guys like Paul Gunther after the Huggins trade and hearing what he said, signing, and hearing what he said about Huggins. I think that they just want to see what they have in him. So this may not be the end of their relationship with Carl Davis, because keep in mind that was his second stint with the team anyway. So,
That's
it's very possible. Yeah, it's very possible that they circle back to Carl Davis, because as we sit here, again, there's no reason to pretend Carl Davis is an Aaron Donald. Does that mean that he won't receive interest elsewhere? I mean, obviously it's possible, especially with the solid film he put out against the Rams. But I wouldn't go worried about it too much in the capacity of, he'll never come back to the Cowboys if we need this depth. I disagree. If he's not employed and they call him, he's coming back.
That's a good point, too. They very well could hit him with a wink, like, hey, we're going to cut you because we just need to do some roster gymnastics, but we're going to bring you right back because we may be putting certain guy on IR, et cetera, because, Bostic, Edoga, hell, Nate Thomas has been out for a while. So.
And Nate Thomas is dealing with some stuff as well. So, I mean, they got a couple weeks or so before the regular season gets here. They got until late next weekend, or the weekend after, I should say, before they need to do the roster cut downs. And, I mean, it's football. As you're dealing with Nate Thomas and some of these other guys, or Bostic is going to likely be moved to IR with Tume Doga when they move him to IR, you're going to have some roster gymnastics. Yeah. And you're also, knock on wood, but it's reality, somebody else is going to pull something, right? Somebody else is going to string something between now and the final game against the Chargers in August. So, you kind of play the game a little bit. And I think that's what they're doing with Carl Davis. I think he ends back up on the practice squad or something like that.
We got our insider, Patrik Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Pat, tomorrow's game 2 of preseason, and I think, the same amount of eyeballs are going to be on the two players that were talked about last week, Trey Lance, Mazi Smith. And for Trey, I've been saying this not all off season, but after a few practices and whatnot in camp, it's just about stacking good days, man. He's got to stack good days. He's got to stack good games. And at this point, just stack some reps. And after his game last week, you want to see, okay, how do I bounce back from this? Or how do I build from this or learn from whatever? And I'm hearing some good things down there this week for Trey. I know it's not like earth-shattering things, but you want to hear positive things coming out of camp from Trey. So kind of your thoughts on what you're looking for Trey Lance tomorrow, because I want to see him just let it rip. But I think he needs to build his confidence to get there.
Well, let me be clear, and I said this on Twitter, I believe, yesterday. Yesterday was Trey Lance's best day of practice.
You love to hear.
I'm not kidding. And I'm not saying that to say, let me qualify this the right way, or I should say, let me frame this the right way. I'm not saying he had a Dak Prescott level practice, because Dak is just out there cooking. He's just cooking. I'm not even saying that Trey Lance had a Cooper Rush level practice. And I know people are going to be like, oh, he didn't have a Cooper Rush. Cooper practices very freaking well, right? He's a steady hand. That's why he's still QB2. But all things considered, when you look at the struggles that Trey Lance has had in camp, when you look at the struggles he had against the Rams, a lot of it was based upon indecisiveness, taking too long to process, not trusting his arm to make the throw, not throwing the guy open, thinking the window is going to be open longer than it is. I didn't see much of that yesterday in practice, and I was impressed with that. And I even pointed it out on a couple of videos where typically to this point in training camp, when the pocket breaks down, he's off to the races. He's off. But there are a couple of occasions where he escaped the pocket, escaped the pressure, and scrambled out. But before he passed that line of scrimmage, he was still eyes downfield. He didn't dip his helmet. He was eyes downfield. He was still looking for the play. And on one of those occasions, he got some help when, rookie Ryan Flanoy broke off from his guy in the end zone and it ended up in a touchdown. And my point to that is to say sometimes you need to take off and run and get what the defense is giving you. But at other times, you need to keep your eyes downfield and feel the pressure behind you while still looking for the big play downfield. And I saw a good mix of that yesterday. A couple of times he did take off and run, but on those occasions, he should have. He needed to. Nothing was developing downfield, so he got the yardage. But then when they, in times like what I'm talking about with Ryan Flanoy, he gave his receiver an opportunity. The throws looked better. Was he perfect yesterday? No. Were there some throws that he should have made? Yes. But again, I say all of that to say I see progress, and I'm hoping this progress now translates to the game versus the Raiders and hopefully that film looks better than the Rams. But he is making progress. Problem for Trey Lance is he's running out of time to continue making progress. Only has 2 games left.
Yeah, you bring up the word process. That's the other thing I'm looking at tomorrow for Trey is, hey, can he process things better? Because that definitely wasn't the case and it's not going to be. So he hasn't played in a long time. He doesn't have the experience. He literally hasn't played a quarterback position in his lifetime that long. So you saw those issues with processing. I don't think that's going to just all of a sudden be good enough to be a starting quarterback off of 2 preseason games, but you still want to see some progress in that. So tomorrow, if he can get back to get the top of his drop, be confident in what he sees, if he knows what he's seeing and deliver the ball, that will be a huge step for Trey Lance tomorrow. Just even if you happen to, here's the thing, he doesn't like to turn the ball over. I get it. So he's hesitant. But if you make the right read and it just happens to be the ball gets tipped or something like that, then so be it. But let the thing fly, Trey. We want to see you let the ball flow because you have a strong arm. And one thing I noticed yesterday, Pat, he had more touch on some of his throws yesterday. So maybe he is learning because he had no touch last week.
Exactly. And that's something I pointed out as well. And I pointed that out during the game, I believe, against the Rams, where I said there's something lacking on when it comes to the touch on his pass. He had that pass to Jalen Cropper. Number one, he didn't pull the trigger fast enough, which goes back to process, see the window, throw it into the window. Trust your arm, trust the receiver to make the play. And to your point, if that turns into an interception, okay, that sucks. But if you don't trust yourself, then that doesn't turn into a touchdown either. But then, late throw, and then he sails it out of bounds. And then you go back and you look at the film, and you see the deep go route, right side, Cam Johnson, that ball sails as well. Now, I add that to the totality of plays I've seen in camp, and so many of his throws have sailed on him when they're going downfield versus when you look at what Cooper Rush is doing, when you look at what Dak Prescott is doing. Notice how Dak and Cooper are able to drop it in the bucket 50 yards downfield. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's his grip on the ball or the flick of his wrist being slightly different. I don't know what it is, but once his ball goes up, it has a hard time dropping down where he wants it to drop down. So something that I figure that, he and Scott Tolzien, the quarterback's coach, will kind of get in the lab and try to figure out. But I'm starting to see some of that change. Not drastic change, but some of that change. So when he gets out there at Allegiant Stadium, I'm hoping to see more touch on his passes so that he can kind of get those chunk plays with his arm because, everybody knows he can run. So for everybody throwing a tantrum and saying, well, it's 4th and 3 from the goal line, you got to run that in with Trey Lance. This is not a regular season game. Calm your buns. This is not a regular season game. This is evaluation. The reason they call the pass play is because they need him to throw the ball and make that difficult decision and make that difficult throw. That's the evaluation process. What does it benefit them if he runs that ball in from 3 yards out? And yeah, the Cowboys win the game. It's preseason. What was just evaluated? Nothing. Can he run? Yeah, but you knew that already. It's evaluation. So talking to Mike McCarthy yesterday, he said basically expect more of that against the Raiders in situations where, you could call a QB sneak, but they're going to drop him back and tell him to make the throw because it's evaluation. It's not about wins and losses, right? Hey, so when it comes to Trey Lance, it's just he just needs to continue to progress. But everyone watching Trey Lance outside of the building, temper your expectations because if you came into this preseason thinking, okay, well, he's going to show us that he can be a starter in the league, well, you set yourself up for disappointment. Bring your expectation down. Expectation has always been that he's going to battle Cooper Rush. He's not battling Dak Prescott. And if you keep it in that reign, it makes it easier to understand why they're calling the plays they're calling because they're trying to see if he can do what Cooper Rush can do. Because as it stands, he can't do what Dak Prescott can do.
Yeah, he's a long ways from being anybody's QB1, but he's got some time. Just don't know if it's going to be here. Real quick, because I know you got to get going here. Mazi Smith, that's the other guy that a lot of people are going to be watching, especially with Jordan Phillips being brought in. Y'all got a chance to speak with him, extensively, probably more than he spoke with the media in the last year, maybe since last training camp. And he wrote a fantastic article, by the way, Cowboys Nation. Go check it out at DallasCowboys.com. Kind of your takeaways from y'all meet with Mazi yesterday.
First of all, this is a different dude, and I want you guys and ladies and gentlemen to take what I'm saying seriously. I am one of only 2 Cowboys media persons, and that means on the beat, period, covering the beat, who were at the airport to pick up Mazi, rode the bus with him on the way, and I got to see Mazi up close initially. I get that personality. That personality kind of faded immediately last year for whatever reason. And it could have been a Jalen Tolbert situation during the headlights. This is a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Could have been all of that. But I think what everybody then saw was the ho-hum Mazi Smith. Oh, man, I don't know what they want from me, Mazi Smith. Like, he had that air about him. Talking to Mazi Smith, not just yesterday, but this offseason period, but especially going into this camp, he's smiling more. He's more talkative. He's being more outward with his personality. He's being more candid. Yesterday we were asking him about, because everyone's seen the clip now of just Jeff Zgonina calling him Mickey Mouse and saying, if you want to go work at Disneyland is like 20 minutes down the road. Now, you can't coach everyone like that because not everyone will respond the right way. And you wondered how would last year's Mazi deal with this year's Jeff Zgonina. Well, then, what did Mazi say yesterday? He was like, man, this is a rough sport. This ain't Candyland. Right. He laughed after he said that, and he said, my mom said that he's the type of coach that I need. And then he said something that really jumped out. He was like, I wouldn't trade his energy for anything. And I love that. He's embracing what Zgonina, Coach Z is what they call him, what Coach Z is giving him, and he's using it to progress. And you see the progression. He came in at the appropriate weight, give or take a few pounds. He came in and his get off on the ball has drastically improved. I provided evidence to that on several occasions on Twitter with the footage. So that evidence is there for you. His demeanor as far as his teammates and how he's been taken under the wing of Micah Parsons. Hey, I thought Micah Parsons wasn't a leader, so says some people. But okay. But all things put into a pot and labeled Mazi, this is a much better Mazi Smith mentally. It's a much better Mazi Smith physically. This is a much better Mazi Smith as a football player. And now that's why you go back and look at the film against the Rams. And yeah, and to his own admission, he said, I left some plays out there, but I know the player I can be, and that's what I'm working to get toward. I feel like I can make every play that comes inside. That's not how Mazi was talking last year, right? Mazi last year was very, I'll do whatever they need me to do. That's not what this is, and I love it. I love that his aura has completely changed. His mentality has changed, and I think he's going to do some big things this year. I really do.
I think it feels like he understands the pressures of playing with the Cowboys, and now obviously adding a guy like Jordan Phillips. And sometimes you need to have that understanding. You need to know, okay, yeah, I was a first-round pick. The honeymoon's over, though. If I don't continue to get better, they will look for players, especially Mike Zimmer. They will look for players to come in here and take my job. And you know this old saying, pressure busts pipes or it makes diamonds. Yep. So I like that he's kind of acknowledging, they brought Phillips in here. We want the competition. We don't want to be content. Yeah. And he's moving in that way. Much like Trey with baby steps, Mazi needs a little bit more than baby steps because we're more relying on him. But as long as he's getting better, that's all we could ask for. And I think he is a better player than last year. Again, how much, that's to be determined.
But see, and that's the thing. He's not even taking baby steps right now. He's taking strides.
Yeah, we need more than baby steps. We need strides. There you go.
Yeah, and he's taking those strides so far in camp. And I feel like, you're going to have some growing pains against teams like the Cleveland Browns and mobile quarterback and Deshaun Watson and things like that. Yeah, he's going to have growing pains over the first portion of the season as he's thrown into that starting nose tackle role. But I think before the season is all said and done, his confidence is going to be where it needs to be. He has the support system, Coach Z, Coach Greg Ellis, Mike Zimmer, obviously, whose scheme is putting him right back where he needs to be as far as that definitive nose tackle. And then you have the mindset of, they trade for Jordan Phillips. That could have been looked upon as a slight by Mazi. Keep in mind, last year, like I said, the Mazi Smith of last year was the, I'm just trying to figure out what they want from me. And he could have taken that slight, and it could have dipped his confidence again. Here's a portion of the quote he gave us about Jordan Phillips. He said, that's what you want. You want a room full of competition. You don't want anybody to relax. This is football. You know what I'm saying? End quote. He's looking at that as competition, and it's stoking his fires even more at the same time, because I followed up with that by asking, how do you balance competing with a veteran while learning from a veteran? And even his answer to that was phenomenal as far as gleaning whatever he can from a Jonathan Hankins or a Phillips. And he basically said, you look at what they've been doing to remain in the league for 10, 11 years and to remain a starter in the league, and then you compare that to what you're not doing, and then you start doing what they're doing. So Mazi Smith, he gets it. He didn't get it last year, just like Jalen Tolbert didn't get it in year one, but then got it in year two and definitely has it going into year three. Something has clicked with Mazi Smith, and it's no surprise that it's at a time where the Cowboys have brought in these heavyweights of support, Greg Ellis and Jeff Zbonina and Mike Zimmer, and it's all working right now, and hopefully it continues to work. He is on the right trajectory.
Let's see him stack tomorrow. Hey, Pat, I appreciate you coming through every week like you do, man. Go get you some rest. Y'all traveling today or traveling tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm up, so I gotta shower, get dressed, and gotta pack. So we on the buses to LAX around lunchtime, and then we going to Vegas, baby.
Man, you living a dream. Hit one of them casinos and hit the jackpot for your boy, bro.
You say that, but 15 minutes before call time, you hit the phone and you're like, oh man,
they don't gotta know. They don't gotta know. Y'all should have heard Pat. Pat didn't even answer the phone and say hello. Pat said,
what's up, man? What's up? I'm dealing with some things, man. To be fair, though, ladies and gentlemen, to be fair to myself, I did hit Will last night, and I was like, hey, we good? And he didn't reply before I dozed off, so I didn't set the alarm. So then my phone starts ringing,
Come on,
at around 6:45 at this time. And I opened one eye and it said still, and I looked at the clock and I'm like, shit.
Pat, I'm old, dog. Like my fans know I'm old. I go to sleep early. You hit me up, I was already asleep. Me and wifey gone.
No,
I woke up in the middle of the night because the baby, and I was like, well, let me go here and respond back to Pat because I, make sure we on the same page. And we wasn't, but we got it done, man. You killed it.
Man, folks, listen, everybody in the live chat, I need y'all to get it. Give Will hell. Tell him bro, you've been covering this team long enough. The hell you sleeping early for? We got contracts hovering above our head that might land. You better wake your ass up.
Hey, Pat. You are a father, so when you can get some sleep, you gotta get to sleep. Baby boy, he went to sleep at 8 something. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to sleep at 8 something. God dang, that's just the way it is, brother. That's the way it is.
I give you that. I forgive it this time. I'm just saying, folks, there's a reason that he caught me slipping, but it's his fault. Hey, much love.
It is my fault.
I talk to y'all soon, bro.
All right, man. Much love, bro. That's Patrik Nosey Walker with the science, man. The scientific method. Yeah, that was a funny exchange this morning, Pat. I was like, yo. I said, bro, you good? We good or we ain't good? What's going on? It's my fault, though. My fault. Let's take a beat real quick. Quick break, and we'll come back. We'll hit the mailbag segment. A lot of good stuff right there, though, from Pat, man. And if you did miss the article, I had it up. Head on over to DallasCowboys.com after the show. Or you can read it in a different tab while we are live.
You're listening to A to Z Sports.
Do it live!
At some point, hoping to broadcast
In front of the millions
of Cowboys fans to bring you the real. But for now, strap up and here's your host, Skywalker Steele.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
We'll do it live.
Man, that's good stuff. Real good stuff. Like I said, we're going to hit the mailbag in a little bit. Did not get everybody's question on here. But my boy, you keep spamming this question, so I got to call you out. I'm sorry. I hate to do this to you, bro. Nobody cares about no player wearing 0, Aaron. I'm sorry, bro. I had to, man. Because every time we do this mailbag, you ask this question, and then I see you spamming it in the chat. Just ask him. Just go ask him. But Doesn't matter. Does it? Zero, dog. That's what we worried about. Of all the cool questions you can ask an insider, you want to know why nobody can wear zero? Ron, come on, dog. I hope that answers it. I hope the spamming of the question is over, dog. That's it. But there was a lot of good questions here. I'm likely going to take one of these as like a bonus question. But I got 4. Let me see. Let me make sure. Let me get to the mailbag. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I got 4 questions we'll get at. A lot of them tie into each other. Again, shouts out to you over here on Twitter. Y'all had some really good ones. So let's go ahead. Let's turn the page and let's hit this mailbag segment. Oh, we jumping straight into it, man. I'm not even going to tease y'all with the intro. I want to get right into the goods. And the first one we got comes from Corey King over on Twitter. He says, with the additions of Lawson and Phillips, does this fix any of our depth issues? I honestly think we still need another one tech as well as another end, especially if we're depending on Micah to stand up and play from depth. I don't see Fehoko, Carl Davis, DQ types, guys making the 53. So here's the thing about Carl Davis. He's gone. So we know that already. By the way, y'all know how this goes. You guys can participate in the chat. And of course, I will read some of your responses to this as well. So do Carl Lawson and Jordan Phillips fix our depth issues? And I like to fixate on specific words here. I don't think it fixes it. Right? But they're definitely improved. Like fixing would basically, all right, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything else up there. I agree. I think you need to add possibly another. It doesn't even have to be a one tech at this point, right? But you need to add another defensive tackle. Maybe a guy that can play both, because we know that Jordan Phillips can line up everywhere. But you just got rid of Carl Davis. You said he ain't gonna make the 53. Well, he off the team now, and that shocked me because Albert Huggins is not a good player. 11 teams in 5 years, pushing little dweebs on the opposing staffer and getting pushed around on the field. But he's still on this roster over Carl Davis is a bit shocking to me. But maybe Carl Davis, they spin the block. So, no, I don't think it fixes it, Corey. I think it improves it, and I don't even think it's close. You know, you didn't have depth on the defensive end to begin with, even when you had Sam Williams. Sam Williams was obviously a part of the rotation, but I thought you didn't address it fully from a depth standpoint. Now he goes down, and you basically replace him with Lawson, and you're kind of back to where you were, where, hey, if somebody gets nicked, you really don't have much juice behind your 3 defensive ends. So I'm with you. Not fixed, but I think they're improved. We need another 3 techs, is Mark. Yeah. And that was a lot of questions. I think, let me scroll here. JJ Vargas basically asked a similar question. He said, what are we going to do about 3 tech? It's kind of light. Yeah, man. The 3 tech position for me is, Pat's gone. It's one of those positions where I would love to ask Coach Mike Zimmer, because he talked about, hey, we need noses. Now, here's what I took away from Mike Zimmer, man. I love listening to his pressers. I know I said it about Dan Quinn, but I think Zim gives away a lot, and that's fine. You know, as a fan, I want to know everything. But Zim was saying on passing downs, we're going to get guys like Nealon, D-Law sliding inside. So I wonder if they just look at it this way. Osa's our traditional defensive tackle 3 tech, and then whenever we decide we want to rush the passer, we're just going to move our end game, is what Vosh calls it. We're going to move our defensive ends, the Nealons, the D-Laws of the world, inside to get some pass rush, because they don't have none. Outside of Osa, there is no pass rush on that interior. But I think they still need a guy to help Osa. I don't want Osa taking on the burden of being the only interior defensive lineman that's not a big nose tackle. And maybe that's where Jordan Phillips comes in, because he's played a lot of 3 tech type of responsibility throughout his career. All right, question Number 2 comes from King Woods Reacts, or King Envy Finesse on Twitter. Shouts out to you. He says, with the Cowboys making moves for the D-line, do you foresee them also making a move to bolster their running back position? For example, a trade for Pierce from the Texans. I'm a little torn on this one because I think they should, but I keep hearing from people, you know, they like Malik Davis. Clearly, Zeke is their guy. Rico's their guy. We know how the front office feels about Royce Freeman. I don't know if they're going to make one. I don't know if they're going to make one now. Put it that way. I think it's going to take for them to see that, hey, they have no juice. And maybe week 4, 5, 6, whatever, before the trade deadline, they make a trade. Now, I'll talk about your example for trading for Pierce. Pierce was a very popular name that was brought up around free agency and draft time, and that made sense then. I don't think Pierce makes much sense now. You've got a bruising backfield already. Ezekiel Elliott, even though Rico's a slasher, he gives you kind of that Marion Barber type. You got the fullback, Royce Freeman. You got enough bruisers. You need some lightning. You need some juice. That's the word of the week, right? Who's the twitch guy? Who's the guy that can spam out the backfield? I know you might say, well, that's Deuce Vaughn, but Deuce is struggling to make this team right now. So do I foresee him doing it before the season? Not the way they're moving. Not the way they're moving. But it would not shock me if we get to week 5, 6, and we're staring at this thing the way they looked at the defensive tackle situation where they went out and got Hankins, the way they looked at the Amari Cooper situation when they went out, wide receiver by committee, and they went out and got Amari. They could be like, all right, look, we like what we got in Rico. Zeke is giving us some thumping ability, red zone stuff. We are one element away from having a complete backfield, and I think something you're going to need. Cowboys Nation, listen, we've been here before in the playoffs. Now, that's a whole nother discussion too, the playoffs. But we've been here before where the one juice player that you had on offense, really two at the time, that they were using, it was Tony Pollard, it was CeeDee Lamb against the 49ers. When he went down, you had no answer. You had nobody else that can make something shake. They threw out Ezekiel Elliott, but Zeke ain't that guy, pal. Right? I don't want to get to week 17, 18, roll into the playoffs. Zeke is being worn down because you're not using him correctly. I don't know what's going to happen with Rico. Rico gets dinged up. We'll see. But even still, let's just say everybody's healthy. Don't want to get into the playoffs and you don't have a guy like, okay, they are shutting down this 3 yards in a cloud of dust run game. They're shutting down this power run game. Can somebody get loose and shake loose? And you don't have that in the backfield. So me, I'm going out and I'm getting one. I'm finding me a guy that can provide some lightning to all this thunder. And I know a lot of people want to get down with the power game, and I'm down for power. I'm down for leaning on guys, closing out games. But what happens when you can't do that? I've said this before when it was Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard dynamic. You can't keep pounding your head against the wall, handing the ball off to a guy who is worn down, hobbled, and getting you nothing. Even if the run blocking is not great, give the ball to somebody that, even with a terrible run block, and let's say it's terrible, you make one guy miss, he's off to the races. You have to include that into the weaponry, into the repertoire. Like, you have to, bro. Who is that player? Somebody gonna get cut. That's the beautiful thing about it too. It doesn't need to be Saquon Barkley. It doesn't need to be Austin Eckler. It doesn't need to be anybody like that. You just gotta have some juice, and somebody's gonna run up into a numbers crunch on these teams, and they're gonna get cut. And I'm looking at it, but hey, don't sleep on Malik Davis. They like what Malik Davis is doing. Malik had a run a few years ago. I don't know how much I'm buying it, but hey, Royce Freeman, he ain't been out there. He better get out there tomorrow. Deuce Vaughn, you better get out there. Now, Malik ain't do much in that game last week, but he healthy. Okay, he's getting the tick. So if Malik shows anything in preseason and Royce continues to deal with a hammy or something and Deuce Vaughn is struggling or what have you, that could be a guy they say, all right, let's put our faith in Malik Davis being kind of that third back and seeing if he can give us some juice. Question number 3, and honestly, I planned on asking this question for, now that I think about it, this is a question I wanted to ask Pat, but we didn't have time to do mailbag with Pat today. So I'm going to keep it a bean with you. Is it Gosu? It's hard for me to answer this question 100% honestly because I would need to see almost every rep or a lot of reps down there. He says, have you seen any changes to the run scheme during training camp? I can't. It's hard for me to answer that question. I really wanted to ask Pat that, so my apologies, Cowboys Nation. This is terrible radio, terrible show, but based off of the little I've seen from training camp live, the clips and things like that, I'll say this: a lot more under the center, right? So I've seen him under center a little bit more in this camp, running the ball, running the rock. It does feel more like a power run game, but they tried that last year, so I don't know if that's a change. What I want to see schematically from a run game change is, hey, are we pre-snap motion, at snap motion with the run game? One guy going this way, stretch zone, cut back, wind backs. Do we got the tight end, in 3 different spots? Then at the snap, he's on the other side. Like, I want to see all that going. Maybe we'll get a little bit more of that tomorrow, right? I saw somebody in the chat mention this. I've heard people on .com mention this too. Hey, how about we run the ball tomorrow just to see what our run game looks like? They're in a bit of a quandary because that guy right there, they have to see what he has. A lot of people were upset they threw the ball 41 times. Me, I'm like, I get it. It's preseason week 1. The hell with Snoop Connor and Malik Davis and whoever else is toting the rock. They want to know if this dude can play quarterback. So they're in a bit of a situation where the further along you get into preseason, the less competition you're going to be facing. So maybe they come out in the first half and they throw the ball all over the field, and in the second half they start running it. But I don't know, Cowboys Nation. I don't know how much you're going to get from running the ball 41 times with Errol Bostic, with TJ Bass and Snoop Connor, and I don't know how much you're going to get from it for them, right? Like they want to know about that guy, Trey Lance. At the same time, well, can my guy Cooper Beebe get some movement? Can my guy Tyler Guyton get in the flow in the run game? Can I, as a play caller, figure out a couple plays that I like to run and just pound it into the ground until these guys get it right? They're in a situation. And because they don't play their starters, it's a toss-up to me. It may not matter because you don't have Terrence still out there with Guyton and Beebe and Zach and Tyler Smith. So the run aspect of it really would have to show itself in camp. And that's something where I haven't been. So Lee said, let's be honest, how much are they going to run the ball in the regular season? I don't think they're going to be a top 10 rush offense from a attempt standpoint. But I don't know that they need to be. I just think it needs to complement the pass game. I've been saying that to you guys for a long time. If the run game is averaging 4.7 yards per carry, if you are positive EPA per play, if you're getting rushing touchdowns in the red zone, if your running backs are efficient out the backfield catching the rock, all of that matters more to me than, hey, the Cowboys are 6th in the league in attempts. They're 8th in rush yards, but they average 4 yards per carry. I know 4 yards per carry sounds like it's not terrible, right? But it's pretty average. They average 4 yards per carry. They can't punch it in the red zone. No viable option out the backfield. Then what does it matter? You know what that looks like? Last year. Go look at the numbers. Cowboys rushing offense by volume. Oh, yeah, Cowboys a good run team. No, the hell they weren't. No, they were not. And don't let anybody tell you any different. But yeah, I'm not a believer, Lee, that they're just going to be a running team. That's not even their strength right now. They just needed to complement the passing game. Here is the final question. Pretty long one. Comes from Jay, and I believe this was YouTube. Shouts out to you, Jay. He says, honest opinion, Sky. With the pieces we have and recently acquired, he says including CD, do you think we have a better chance to compete against better competition before the playoffs? Again, I like to fixate on certain words. He says, because honestly, most of the games we lost last season were against better competition and playoff teams, which in turn made me say that we aren't winning an NFC championship or going to NFC championship or winning a Super Bowl. So he says here, do we have a better chance to compete against better competition before the playoffs? Competing is not an issue for the Cowboys. Like, I don't think they'll have a problem competing. You could argue they didn't compete against one, maybe 2 games last year. The most obvious one being the San Francisco game. Other than that, I mean, they've competed in just about every game. So I don't think that'd be a problem. I think they've competed against quality opponents. The one team they didn't compete against was the bullies on the block in San Francisco. And then the game got out of hand, later with Buffalo. But I mean, you score a touchdown in that third quarter. It's a ball game, folks. So, but they just couldn't do anything. And all Buffalo had to do was sit on it. So I think they'll compete, Jay. 100%. But here's the issue. Usually when you go up against a team that has better talent or matches your talent, you're going to need one or two things to happen. Your top guys are going to, if it's better talent, are going to have to play at the top of their games, or depending on what you're lacking, maybe they have to have a Herculean effort. Or you're going to have a better plan. Your coaches are going to have to bring their A game to mitigate whatever gap there is against that team you're playing. So every team has a weakness, and if that team's strength exposes your weakness, you need to come out with a better game plan. You also need to have your team prepared. That's a whole different discussion. Usually there's a combination of both of these things. You obviously need your guys to play at the top of their game. But you also cannot just roll the ball out there and say, okay, cool, our 4 best players go win it. That's not how this sport works. So if you come out with a lackluster plan and another team doesn't, and they come out with the energy, they come out with a better plan, they come out and they're already a better team or just as good as you, yeah, you're liable. You could lose easily. Hell, you could get blown out. And they don't even have to be better than you. We've seen that in the playoffs. But if you're asking for 3 to 4 players, just go out there and be Hercules, good luck. We've seen that over and over here with this franchise. It's not going to work. So I think they're going to compete against these teams in the regular season. They always do, Jay. Never the issue about competing. They need to finish. Y'all remember that? Said that a whole lot last year and over the last few years. They need to finish. Finish the Miami game. Finish the Philly game. Finish the Cardinals game. By the way, that's a perfect example of a team that is completely outmatched, but they came out with a better game plan. You got to finish those games against those good teams. We got lucky against Detroit a little bit. Defense. See, the defense was really weird last year. It's very interesting because we talk about the offense being weird heading into in the playoffs. I wouldn't use weird for them. It was the defense, man. And it all came back to bite us in the ass. So those are the 4 featured questions. My guy, little TJ on Twitter, he had like a long question. He had the screenshot. I'll kind of give y'all the overall general take here. He says, considering Zimmer does what he does with the linebacker scheme, or with the scheme, knowing the linebackers will have improved, you got the secondaries. He's asking if our defensive tackles can be serviceable, basically just doing what they're asked to do. Can this unit be the type of unit that carries us if the offense is having a bad day, or if the offense or 4 is weird early in big playoff games? And this is kind of what I teased at the beginning of this. No. What, Sky? Aren't you high on this? I love Zimmer's scheme. You asking me this question on August 16th, given what now? I'll tell you this, we got Jordan Phillips, but I'm gonna get to this in a second. Given what's there on the interior, if this is what we're working with, this is what we're rolling into the season with, you're going to need Jordan Phillips, because I think that's who it's going to be, to have that 2019 type of year. I go back and I look at these playoff teams, these quality defenses, and you see a theme here about the middle of the defenses. They're not out there with Carl Davis. They're not out there with rookie Mazi Smith. They got Javon Hargraves and Fletcher Cox, Chris Jones. I think Aleem McNeil is one of the guys in Detroit. And they just signed a guy. I can't remember. Did they sign a cat from Cincy? They signed a good defensive tackle. Now, they have role players around them that do their job, but they usually have a guy that's a problem. They have a guy that's a problem. So if I'm just going to have jag-type performances from my defensive tackles, is that going to be enough to be a legitimate run defense in the playoffs? You asking me that question right now in August? I can't sit here and pretend and beat with my chest that, yeah, but we rolling out Albert Huggins and Mazi Smith. Nah, I think Jordan Davis is going to have to be a guy that he's going to have to tap back into 2019. DJ Reader. So that they signed the Lions, boy, I tell you, man. And that's what, prompted me earlier in the show to say, I've seen this a lot, right? Oh, if our defensive tackles are just okay, we'll be fine. You got more confidence than I do. I'm going to need somebody to be more than okay. How many years have we had? Oh, it's okay. Gotcha. Tyron Crawford, okay. Just okay. And we get to the playoffs, and that okay is garbage. And now you're asking linebackers who, and look, I'm going to go all the way back to 2018. They were amazing in the regular season. They got to the postseason, and the team figured out you're mush in the middle and had them boys in a blender. In a blender. And I'm not saying that Eric Kendricks is going to be put in a blender or whatnot, but I told y'all this a while. I don't want Eric Kendricks to have to be a hero out there. Give him some help up there. Give him some help. And they went out and got help. They got help. Now, if Jordan Phillips comes in here and he's just another guy, we're back at square one. But if Jordan Phillips can come in here and be 2019 Jordan Phillips, second round pick Jordan Phillips, I just need you to do that one time. One season. That's all I need from bro. Now we cooking. But you don't see a whole lot of Jags on these deep run type of playoff. They got dudes, man, that are disruptive on the interior. They got dudes. All right, let's get to any supers I might have missed. By the way, before y'all head up out of here, hit the like button if you enjoyed today's show. Yeah, Aaron dropped another one. He says, Why can no one wear? No, I'm just playing with you, Aaron. He dropped 5 and said, "Here's my mailbag." Well, he gone. But if Zeke wasn't on the roster, would you still feel they need to trade for a back? Shit, I mean, even more so. Would you still feel they need to trade for a running back having Royce Lipke, Rico, Deuce Malik? Bro, even more. And I'm not saying Zeke is, amazing, but I think Zeke provides, like, he serves a purpose. I still think Zeke in the red zone, man, there's not many backs I'd rather have in the red zone. He has a nose for the ball on the goal line. He has a nose for the ball on the goal line, man. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, Aaron, I still feel like if Zeke wasn't here, they need to trade for a running back. Because think about it. Royce Lipke, Rico, Deuce Malik, where the juice? Like, where's the real twitchy guy that's not 5'0" and struggling to make the roster right now? 100%. He said we're doing the Band-Aid approach. Would that hurt us come playoff time? For what, Guru? For defensive tackle? Really ain't got a choice, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to tell me what position you're talking about, but you really ain't got a choice. You got to hopefully find a Band-Aid that can last a long time, if you're talking about defensive tackle. Somebody brought up a good point too. It's not just the defensive tackles. Obviously the edges are an issue too. 10 Wap, I think it was, said that. Now in that Green Bay game, it was rough. The middle was super rough. That's really where the most damage was done. But yeah, you need your edges to play better. And honestly, I think they'll be fine with Nealon and D-Law and whatnot. But again, if your edges are fine, guess what teams are going to say? Well, why the hell would I run on the edge? And I could just whoop you where you're soft at. And that's why they had to go out and get a Jordan Phillips. Tricks dropped 2 and said, acknowledge our tribal chief. He back, man. What a pop. What a pop at SummerSlam. In a pop. When he did that, ooh, wow. Maybe the loudest ooh I ever heard. Oh, Byron, bro. I saw Justin Simmons get signed to the Falcons. Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates. Oh. Y'all know I love safety play. Y'all know I love safety play. Y'all know how much I like Justin Simmons. We weren't going to sign Justin Simmons. But just as a football fan, Falcons get Justin Simmons. They go out and get Matt Judon. Hey, they're not going down easy. I think they're going to win that division. Now, I'm not calling them Super Bowl worthy or not, but the Falcons going to be fun to watch, man. They're going to be fun to watch. But Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates that's a crazy duo. That's the best duo in the league. I don't even got to think about it. That's the best safety duo in the National Football League. I don't even think it's close. Yeah, they got Judon too, AG. They needed the pass rush. That was the whole thing during the draft period, right? Like pick 8, I think they had was 8. They got to go get a pass rush. Jarrett versus, nope. They went out and got Matt Penix. Nah, we weren't going to do that, Miss Jackie. Not at all. Yeah, Rico got some twitch, but where's the juice? Where's the lightning? Where's the guy that can take it 5 and go 50? Where's the guy that can take it, 10 and go for the touchdown? Where's the guy that can throw out the backfield 275 times? We don't do that anyway, but and it's Rico. If you're going into the season depending on Rico, you're making a mistake. You want Rico to surprise you. Like, oh my God, Rico played 16 games and he was healthy in all 16 games. That's awesome. But guess what? We also added this other back into the equation. Now we just better. No different than you want to make the mistake of going into the season depending on LVE. Well, look what happened. Falcons actually trying to get better. Well, they say if you pay a quarterback toxic, you can't do nothing. You know how that go. These people going to eat it up. They're going to eat it up. All right. Hey, appreciate y'all coming through today. The mailbag questions were great. Y'all were amazing in the chat. Shouts out to my bro, Patrik Walker. If you missed that, run that back. Tomorrow, Cowboys Raiders, 9 p.m. Central. Follow me on Twitter. I said this on Twitter. During the regular season, I fell back from tweeting during the game. Right, I fell back from it, especially because I have to go on air, so I got time to be, going back and forth with people. But during the preseason, I'm sitting here tweeting stuff, and my goodness, man, yeah, people go crazy on Twitter during these games. So what I'm gonna do is during the preseason, I'll tweet during the games. I have some fun with it. So make sure y'all follow me on Twitter. But during the regular season, y'all can come right back here for halftime post game show. I'm not tweeting during the regular season because boy, it's toxic on Twitter during the games, dog. During a preseason game, people are ready to burn the place down like, y'all, RELAX, relax. Relax. It's going to be all right, man. Football's back. It's preseason. No need to go crazy. With that said, Cowboys Nation, I'm going to press this button.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
No, thank you, Mark. Bro, 10 o'clock is wild. But I'm glad it's a Saturday, so it is what it is. I'll take my notes, and I'll be back Monday. Sunday night, Mo will be on, so he'll give his take on the game as well. All right? Yes, sir, Tricks. The game is at night, 9 p.m. Central. I'll see y'all Monday. Enjoy your weekend. You crazies. Love y'all. Peace. Follow my guy Special K on Twitter. He said he tweeting this year at Mr_99 Problems with a Z. Yes, sir, Iceberg Q. Me and Jesse holding down pre-halftime post-game. We are still figuring out where our home is going to be, but y'all know where to come.